Very quickly, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Darren Alf, and I am the Bicycle Touring Pro. For the last 18 years, I have been riding my bicycle all around the world, and in that time, I've cycled across a lot of countries. I'm not even sure. I need to sit down and figure out how many countries it has been, but I think it's about 70 countries or so. And yeah, so I've been doing that for 18 years. I got into bicycle touring when I was just 17 years old and had just graduated from high school. And I rode my bicycle from Oregon to Mexico down the California coastline. That was a 30-day bike tour that I did. And it was really like the first time that I had ever been out on my own, away from home, away from my parents or anybody that I knew. And so it was a challenge, not only from a cycling perspective, but also from an independence perspective as well. And I completed that trip. It was awesome. And every year after that, I just continued to go on bicycle tours. And that's how I've gotten to where I am today. I remember when I went on my third year of bicycle touring, and I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been doing this for 3 whole years. And now here I am. I've been doing this for 18 years, which is freaking crazy. But that's how I got started, basically. I started bicycle touring in the United States, rode across the US in 6 different directions, 6 different times, kind of riding north, north to south, east to west, up, down, side to side. And then I began cycling overseas, going to Europe and Asia and Africa and South America. And yeah, I don't know why exactly. Well, I have an idea, but I don't, I just love bike touring. And I guess about 10 years ago, I decided that I wanted to share my passion for bike touring with the world. And I thought, what better way to do that than with a website? Where I could not only communicate with one person at a time, but potentially, like today, communicate with the 120 people that are watching right now, and the thousands of people that will watch this in the future. So that is what I do, basically. I ride my bike around the world, and I teach people how to conduct their own bicycle tours anywhere in the world. And one of the things I wanted to say was, this is my book, The Bicycle Touring Blueprint, that I wrote a couple years ago. It's a 400-page how-to manual that teaches you how to conduct your own bicycle tour anywhere in the world. And this past December, I did a webinar like this one where I offered people a deal if they wanted to get the book right now. And that basically what I did was I said, go to my website, order this book, enter the coupon code YouTube Live at checkout, and you'll save $5, and I'll send you a signed copy of the book. So I did that in December, and it was a huge success. Like, I sold more books than I've ever sold in any month ever in Bicycle Touring Pro's history. And for me, that's a success, not just for selling the books, but because I know that people are reading the books and going off and conducting their own bicycle tours. And that's my goal all along. So ever since I did that sale or coupon code in December, people have been asking me to do that again. So I'm going to do that right now. If you want to get a copy of my book, The Bicycle Touring Blueprint, and you'd like to get it for $5 off its normal price, plus have me send you a signed copy of the book, along with like a handwritten message from me inside the cover here, all you got to do is go to biketourbook.com. That's www.biketourbook.com. Order a copy of the ebook or the paperback and enter the coupon code YouTube Live at checkout. You'll save $5, and I'll send you a signed copy of the book plus a handwritten message inside. So there's the deal, guys. If you're interested in bike touring and you haven't already picked up a copy of the Bicycle Touring Blueprint, there's kind of my incentive for you today to get started. The reason I wanted to do that today also is because it's March 16th right now, and this is the time of year when so many people start to plan and prepare for their own bicycle tours. Winter, in the Northern Hemisphere at least, is a relatively slow time for Bicycle Touring Pro, because a lot of people in North America, Europe, Asia, they're indoors and not really thinking about riding their bike. It's too cold, there's snow, there's ice, and that sort of thing. But as the weather warms, a lot of people begin to plan and prepare for their bike tours, and that's what this book is here to help you do. So once again, if you want to get a copy of the Bicycle Touring Blueprint, just go to biketourbook.com and enter the coupon code YouTube Live at checkout, and you'll save $5. Plus, I'll send you a signed copy of the book. Okay. I'm going to make a quick couple announcements. First, just about some upcoming events that I have going on. And then the main thing that I wanted to do today was a Q&A where you guys get to ask me questions and I answer them live here on YouTube. So we're going to do that in just a second. But first of all, I want to tell you about some of the events that I have coming up where you can meet me and ride with me in the future. So, I closed the page. I accidentally clicked and closed it. Let me open it up again. Well, the first event that's going on is the one that I mentioned previously. It's the event in Eugene, Oregon with CoMotion Cycles. I'm traveling to Eugene, and I am co-hosting a Bicycle Touring Pro and CoMotion Cycles meetup/bike ride at the CoMotion Cycles factory in Eugene, Oregon. This bicycle that you see behind me is my CoMotion Siskiyou touring bicycle, which was made in Oregon by CoMotion Cycles. So I'm going to the factory where this bike was built, and you're invited to join me. Basically, I'll be there signing books, and we're going to have a tour of the CoMotion factory, so you get to see how bicycles like this one are made. You can test ride some CoMotion bicycles for yourself. Then we're going to go on like a short 15-mile bike ride around Eugene, and then we'll come back to the CoMotion Cycles factory and have lunch afterwards. So that event and all the details on that event are up on the Bicycle Touring Pro website right now. You just go to bicycletouringpro.com/calendar, and you'll see not only that event, but all of the other upcoming events that I have planned as the Bicycle Touring Pro. The next event that I'm going to be doing that you're invited on is the Way of St. James Bike Tour, which is a week-long bike tour that I'm doing in northern Portugal and Spain this May. So it's May 15th to the 22nd. This is a guided group bike tour. I'm not organizing the tour, I'm just participating. But there's a local tour company called Fold and Visit in northern Portugal, and they're organizing the tour. And right now, the last I heard, there was like 20-something people already signed up for this tour, and there was only one spot left. So if you're interested in joining me on a week-long, amazing guided bike tour in Portugal, be sure to visit the website bicycletouringpro.com/calendar for all the details on that tour. Then on May 24th, I am doing a meetup. Just a short lunch meetup in Porto, Portugal. We're going to meet for lunch. So if you live in Porto and you want to meet up and talk about bike touring, May 24th at 1 p.m. At Da Terra Vegan Restaurant in Porto, Portugal. And then finally, the last meetup that I have planned right now is going to take place in Poznan, Poland, which many of you know is one of my favorite cities in the whole world. I'm returning to Poznan just to kind of see some of my friends there. But on May 30th at 11 a.m., we're meeting at the Vipas Vegan Restaurant, and we're going to go on a short 30-kilometer bike ride to a nearby lake. Then we'll return to the restaurant and have lunch, and that will basically be it. So that's on May 30th at 11 a.m. in Poznan, Poland. Okay, that's it for the upcoming events. All of the details on these events and more that I'm going to be adding in the future can be found once again on bicycletouringpro.com/calendar. So check it out. Lots of cool events coming up soon. Okay, I wanted to devote most of the time today to doing Q&A. So this is your opportunity to ask me any question that you happen to have about bike touring, world travel, stealth camping, etc. So yeah, that's basically it. If you have a question that you want to ask me, there's a comment box on YouTube. We are live right now, so leave a comment and I will do my best to answer it. And if I don't know the answer, I will write it down and try to answer it in a future article, video, podcast, etc. on Bicycle Touring Pro. Okay. So I see a couple of people saying Margaret and Mike are asking maps or GPS. Do you follow maps or use a GPS? The answer is I do a little bit of both, to be honest, and it depends on the situation. The problem with a lot of GPSs is that the battery life is still relatively short. Some GPSs die after a single day. Others will go a little bit longer than that. And even, if you're using your smartphone to navigate, which is mainly what I do, that battery usually only lasts for about a day or two before you need to charge it again. So the problem with using a GPS, even though we are in 2018 and we're as technologically advanced as we've ever been, the problem with GPSs at the moment is the battery life. And I suspect that will improve in the future. But with bike touring, you're oftentimes traveling for days, weeks, months sometimes without getting regular access to electrical plugs. So that's the problem with using a GPS. And that's why I basically always have a paper map of some kind with me on my travels. And what I'm trying to say is how detailed that map needs to be depends on the trip that you're doing. Like when I cycled from Oregon to Mexico on my very first bike tour, I didn't even carry a map with me. I didn't have a map or a GPS because basically all I was doing was cycling down the coast of California. All I did was keep the ocean on the right-hand side and keep the mountains on the left-hand side, and I knew where I was and where I was going, and I was just using the road signs basically to navigate. Because when you cycle the coast, there's basically no turns that you need to make. It's pretty straight. So I wasn't carrying a map for that particular bike tour. But other tours that I've done, there's been millions of turns that you have to make in a very short amount of time. And for those sorts of trips, I usually rely mostly on a GPS, but I always have a broad paper map with me that I'm carrying just in case. It may not have every street on it, but it has enough streets to kind of tell me, okay, where the next town is and that sort of a thing. Because usually that's all you need to navigate. You don't need to know every road that you're going to be on. You just need to know generally the direction that you're heading, what the next town is, and if there's a road going in that direction. So yeah, it's usually a combination. I was going to draw you an example really quick because on my last bike tour that I did in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, I was out there for about a month, and I was using my phone as my only means of navigation. But I had a piece of paper with me. Basically, I just took my notebook like this, and I drew out on this piece of paper a map of the turns that I needed to make on the entire month-long bike tour, because there were really only like a dozen turns that I had to make in a whole month. They were just long, straight roads that I was going down. So I would just, I'd draw a dot and I'd put the name of the town there, and then I draw another dot and connect it with a line like that, and then I draw another dot up here and connect it with a line, and that was my map. And I just had this in my wallet or in my handlebar bag, and I would refer to it occasionally just so I knew that I was headed in the right direction. And I could have navigated for the entire month just with this single piece of paper that I was carrying with me. So again, it depends on the situation, but I always recommend having some kind of paper map with you just in case your batteries die. You don't want to be out with a GPS or a smartphone, have the batteries die, and then you just be completely lost and not knowing which direction to go. So that's my advice. Someone from Moldova here. Cool. I went to Moldova in 2012 on a bike tour that I did from Istanbul, Turkey up to Poland, and I cycled through Moldova. Moldova is like one of the smallest countries in Europe. and it's kind of sandwiched between Romania and Ukraine. And yeah, so I spent several days. This was like in the winter time too. It was like November or December, and it was honestly the coldest place I've ever been. It was really miserable, but very interesting and very beautiful place actually out in the countryside. There are these wells out in the countryside of Moldova, like old-fashioned, like pull your water out of the ground sort of wells where there's a bucket on a long arm and a long hook, and you basically pull down on one side of this thing and it lifts the bucket up with water inside of it. It's really, really cool. But that's how I was getting my water out in Moldova in the freezing cold winter. So hello from Moldova. Mihai says, what app do you use to plan your trips in Europe? I use an app called maps.me. That's the app that I've been using for the last couple of years. There are a bunch of other mapping applications though. I like the maps.me app. And one of the reasons I like it is because I generally plan out all of my bike tours in advance using Google My Maps. Not Google Maps, but Google My Maps. Google My Maps is different than Google Maps because it allows you to create like custom waypoints and custom routes, much more than you can do with the regular Google Maps. And then you can save these maps and import them into your GPS or your smartphone. And in this case, I import them into maps.me, the app that I use to navigate while I'm out on the tour. So I'll try to show you here really quick. Oh, yeah, if I can. But I've already gone ahead and imported all of the maps for my upcoming bike trips in Northern California and Oregon. I have some trips coming up, and I guess I should talk about that a little bit too. But this is the app that I'm using. I don't know if you can see it. It went blank. Maps.me. And I'm just going to zoom in on a section so that you can kind of see. But this is the route that I am planning to cycle in Oregon soon. This is a bike packing route that I've kind of created. The red line, if you can see that, is an established bike packing route. I downloaded the route for this from bikepacking.com, which is a good website to find these bike packing routes. And then the blue route off to the right of that is a route that I created myself using Google Maps. And then I've imported that map from my computer into my phone so that once I'm out on the road now, I simply follow these red and blue lines in a circle until I get back to where I started, essentially. You can see I'm going in a big circle. And then all of these little dots that you see on the screen are waypoints, custom waypoints that I've created. Some of them are indicating where the supermarkets are, where water is, and the green ones are free campgrounds. So I've entered all of that information in advance so that I'm not having to use my time out on the road to do all this. And also the other advantage to doing this is that this application is completely offline. There's no internet required. So I don't need to be within cell service in order to use this application. All I need to do is open the app and it'll tell me where I am. No internet required. So that's the app I use. And if you want to learn how to do this, I've actually created a whole video course with several long, detailed how-to tutorials that teach you how to create your maps, what to look for when you're creating a map, how to upload the map to your smartphone or GPS. All of that is available on my website at bicycletouringpro.com/video. That's my video training course. In addition to the book, I wrote this book, and then I realized that a lot of people like my videos, and they like learning with video more than they like reading. So I created this video course that teaches you things that I can't necessarily demonstrate in the book. And one of those things is how to map out a route, plan a safe trip, that sort of a thing. So once again, if you're interested in that, check out my video course. It's bicycletouringpro.com/video. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Marco says, how about plans to go to Japan? Yeah, I'm trying to get to Japan sometime soon. I've never been there before. I'm hoping that I can do it next year, but at this point I haven't planned anything for sure. So stay tuned. Wolfie says, just install Google My Maps. Thanks for the tip. Cool. Yeah, well, you don't really need to install it necessarily. Maybe if you're on a phone, I don't know how that works, but I use it on my computer. It's just part of the Google suite of apps, basically. It's free to use. Roland says, how much beer is too much to bring on a bike tour? I don't know. I wouldn't know that. I actually don't drink alcohol of any kind. In my whole life, I've probably had this much alcohol. So I don't know. Funny story about beer, though. On my first bike tour, when I was 17 years old, I was cycling for a time with my friend Jason, and we were somewhere near San Francisco, California, in a state campground. And there were several other bicycle tourists in the campground with us. And Jason went to bed. He climbed inside of his tent, went to bed, but he left his food, all of the food that he was carrying, out on the picnic table in the campground. And I don't know why he left it out there. Maybe he thought it was safer than having it in his tent or something. But he left all the food out on the picnic table. And when we woke up in the morning, the food was gone. And there was a note. There was two beer bottles and a note. And the note was from these German bicycle tourists that had also been in the campsite with us. And they basically said, I'm so sorry, we ate your food and didn't realize that it was yours until after we had eaten it. So here's some beer in exchange. And that's basically all the note said, sorry. And they were gone when we woke up in the morning. So our food was gone, we had 2 beers, and both of us were underage, 17 years old. So, and unable to drink the beer, and in my case, at least, unwilling. So yeah, that's my little beer story. But don't leave your food out on the picnic table when there's other people around. Lesson learned, they will eat it. Room 360 says, greetings from Germany, where it is snowing right now. Cool. Yeah, that's why a lot of people aren't thinking about bike touring during the winter. But the snow is going to melt soon, and you'll be back on your bike very shortly. Anyways, Salam from Algeria. Hello. Are you afraid sometimes during stealth camping, Mike says. So stealth camping, in case some of you don't know, is when you camp. Well, there's several different types of camping. And so I need to clarify that first. Like, a lot of people I talk to, they'll say, like, I don't like to camp. And I have to clarify, what do you mean you don't like to camp? Because there are different types of camping. Usually when people say they went camping and they didn't like it, that usually means that they went to like an actual campground where there was a bunch of people around, and you're jammed inside of basically like a parking lot, and you sleep on the ground. I don't like that kind of camping either. I do that on occasion on my bicycle tours, but for the most part, I like camping because it gets me into nature. And so there's a thing called wild camping, where you do camp in the wild outside of established campgrounds. And wild camping, for the most part, is legal in many parts of the world. Like, I just finished a bike tour in Scandinavia where they have a law that allows you to basically camp pretty much anywhere you want, as long as you're not on private property or whatever. And this is really cool. I love parts of the world where you can wild camp for free pretty much anywhere out in the woods. However, there are parts of the world where you cannot camp, even in national parks or nature areas. And in these parts of the world, if you want to camp, you either need to find an established campground, or you need to do something called stealth camping. And stealth camping is when you kind of camp, maybe not legally, in a place, and you get in there and get out before anybody notices that you've been there. So I have done tons of stealth camping all around the world. Like I biked across Africa and pretty much was stealth camping every single night. Sometimes hopping over barbed wire fences and sleeping in, farm fields and things like that. So I've done quite a bit of it. For the most part, most people don't care, but it depends where you are in the world. And part of stealth camping is simply camping in a place where you're not going to be discovered. So you wouldn't camp right by the main road or something because people are going to see you and call the police. But I think it was Mike. Mike's question was, do I ever get scared when I'm stealth camping? And the answer is yes, because not only am I aware of wild animals that exist in certain parts of the world, bears usually is the main thing I'm scared of, but I'm more afraid just of people bothering me more than anything. So yeah, I guess I do get scared, but one of the things about camping in general is that the more you do it, the more comfortable you become. And that's the same with bike touring as well. The more bike touring you do, the easier it becomes. And so, yeah, I just think if you're one of those people who's planning a bike trip and planning to camp, whether you're planning to camp in campgrounds or wild camp or stealth camp, you just need to know that it becomes easier the more you do it. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that subject. But I've written several articles, really popular articles about stealth camping, and they're up on the Bicycle Touring Pro website. So if this sounds like something crazy that you've never heard of before, go to bicycletouringpro.com, and in the search bar, just type in stealth camping. You'll find a bunch of information there. Yeah, Room 360 says, unfortunately, wild camping is not allowed in Germany, and it is even a crime in Austria. It is allowed in France. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, every place is different. And I usually tell people, like, if you're not sure if you're allowed to camp somewhere, you probably shouldn't camp there, or you should simply ask someone if you can. In the United States, for example, it's pretty hard to stealth camp in certain places, and it's definitely not encouraged. However, I've had quite a bit of success by simply going to the police and asking them where I can camp. I don't tell them I want to stealth camp. I just say, hey, I'm riding through on my bicycle. Is there a place around here where I can camp for free? And usually they'll tell you, like, oh yeah, hey, go out here, go near the airport. There's a stretch over there, something like that. So I've had quite a bit of success with that. Sometimes I've even been invited in by the police or the firefighters or whatever to camp on their property. That usually happens not in the United States, but in other places. But yeah, so that's my advice, I guess, is like, if you are unsure about camping in a particular area, just ask somebody. A lot of landowners and stuff, when they see your bicycle loaded down with gear and you say, like, hey, I'm biking across the country, I'm looking for a place to camp, a lot of people will say, hey, well, I got this big field, you're welcome to camp here. Some of them might even say, hey, I got a shower and food, why don't you come inside? So that's the way I've done it in the past. In 2003, I cycled from North Carolina to Maine up the east coast of the United States of America. And every single night of that trip, I relied on strangers to give me a place to sleep. I think I maybe paid for like 2 campgrounds in several months. The rest of the days, I basically just went up to people and said, hey, can I camp in your yard? And some people did say no. Some people did turn me away. But for the most part, a lot of people were really excited to have me there, to hear my stories, and to kind of get a taste of the adventure that I was on at the time. So that's a strategy that you can use, I think, if you're planning to camp on your own bike tours. Yeah, if you guys have any more questions, let me know. Just leave a comment down below there. I see Scarecrow saying, how many guns do you carry with you on your US tours? The answer is no, I've never carried a gun. That's a very short answer. How could you camp in Alaska when there are such high odds of running into a bear? Yeah, well, I went to Alaska about a year ago, and I didn't do super great there, mainly because I went at the wrong time of year. It was just so cold. It was absolutely miserable. But about the whole bear thing, I guess when I was there, I wasn't as worried, maybe because it was winter time, and I figured half the bears at least are probably sleeping. But I don't know, there are a lot of bears in Alaska, especially compared to so many other places in the world. It's just one of those things where you got to be bear smart, I guess, and probably having another person with you would help to calm your nerves as well. When you're out there by yourself, that's pretty scary. But when there's another person sleeping 6 feet away from you, it makes you feel a lot better. Wandering Dutch Guy says, what's the weirdest funny thing to happen on a tour? That's a good question. I'm trying to think, because there's been a lot of weird things. There's been a lot of gross things. That's the first thing that comes to mind. There's been a lot of gross things. Just recently, last year, I was in South America. I was in Ecuador, and I was walking through this town, little tiny town, and I was going past the church, and I noticed this old woman, probably 90 years old, keeled over on the side of the church. And I saw her from a distance, and I thought, oh my God, this lady is like dying. And of all the people in this town that speak Spanish, and I don't, of all the people that are going to come along at this exact moment when she's keeled over and dying on the side of the church, I am going to come along. This American gringo who can't speak Spanish is going to come along and have to try to rescue this old woman who's dying on the side of the road. So I'm looking around, trying to see if there's anybody nearby that could potentially help more than myself. And there's just no one paying attention, basically, to this woman. There are a few people around, but they're kind of looking in the opposite direction, not paying any attention. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I am going to have to run over and save this woman. So I lock eyes with this woman as she's bent over on the side of the road. And I'm trying to give her the eye that says, don't worry, I'm on my way. I'm coming to help you. And it was in that moment that I realized that this woman was not dying. Instead, she was bending over and pooping on the sidewalk on the side of the church in the middle of the day in broad daylight with 100 people around her. That's my story. That's probably like one of the, honestly, like that happens more often than you think. And I have like dozens of stories very similar to that. But yeah, that's maybe a good example of one of the weirdest, funniest, grossest things that's ever happened to me. So how did that story end? I basically just like put my hand up and was like, oh, sorry. And then just kept walking. But yeah, I do kind of joke sometimes that, bicycle touring is an activity that takes place in the street. Oftentimes you're riding on paved roads, and that means that you're encountering people that are on the street, drivers, policemen, homeless people, prostitutes. You run into a lot of that when you're bike touring. And obviously it depends on where you are in the world. Some places this is much more prevalent than in others. But, another funny story, I was in Bulgaria, speaking of prostitutes. I was in Bulgaria, and I was approaching Varna, Bulgaria. It's a coastal town in Bulgaria. And so I was coming through this forested area just outside of town, and I noticed this woman up in the distance wearing a white Marilyn Monroe-esque dress, like a really short skirt, and like, the white dress where it's getting blown up and she's holding it down or whatever. This person was wearing this white sort of dress. And as I approached, I'm going to stand up so I can demonstrate what this person was doing. But as I approached on my bicycle, the woman had her back towards me. So I basically saw her like this, and she had her white skirt on, and she bent over like this in order to show me her butt, basically, as I approached on my bicycle. And and as I got close to her, she turned around, and it was at that moment that I realized it was a man dressed in drag. Basically, he was a male prostitute out there on the road trying to pick up drivers and passersby. So that was just a funny thing. I laughed at the guy, and he laughed at me a little bit. I think he was just playing with me. And that was the end of the story. But honestly, I run into that sort of thing quite a bit, especially on my international travels. So those are a couple funny things that have happened. Paul says, will you visit Ukraine in the future? I hope so. I've been to Ukraine twice before, and I'd love to go back. I just don't know. I don't have any immediate plans. So yeah, I'd love to go back to Ukraine at some point in the future. Let's see, what other questions do we have? AJ says, how did you start with bicycle touring, and what made you decide to do it a full-time thing? Well, I've kind of already told the story about how I got started, but I was 17 years old when I started bicycle touring, and I just wanted to do something big and challenging after I graduated from high school and before I went off to college. A lot of people who do bicycle tours, not just myself, do it because they want to do something that's going to be a challenge. And so I definitely fit into that category. And I wanted to test myself as a young 17-year-old about to go off into the world on my own for the very first time. And I thought a bike tour would be a great way to do that. So that's how I got started. And my first bike tour was 30 days down the coast of California. I did that. Then I went off and did my first year of university, and I spent my summers basically while I was in university bike touring all around the United States. So it kind of benefited me to be a student at the time that I got into bike touring, because I had a fair amount of time each year during my summer holidays to go off and do these long distance cross-country bicycle tours. Now, that's probably like the number one thing that most people say when they decide for themselves that they want to do a bike tour, is the fact that they don't have the time to do it with their job or their kids or their spouse or whatever. And so I guess I was lucky to be a student, but yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And after doing 4 years of bicycle touring across the United States while I was in university, I then did another trip after university, and I did the one before university, and then I started traveling overseas. And I guess it was like 2007 when I biked from Switzerland to, where did I go to? Greece. And I spent about 9 months biking across Europe, and I finished that bike tour. At the time, I wasn't running bicycle. I had Bicycle Touring Pro as a website, but it wasn't like a full-time thing. It was just kind of a little hobby website. And I was doing marketing and website design on the side. And so I was actually living in Europe and traveling on my bicycle and working from the road, from my laptop, in all these various countries. I lived and worked in Switzerland and Austria and Croatia and Montenegro and Greece and Macedonia. And so I was working all that time. And by the time I finished that bike tour, 9 months of bike touring in Europe, I had actually doubled my bank account. So I had actually spent 9 months traveling around Europe and working at the same time, and I had doubled the amount of money that I had at the beginning of the tour. So that was when I was like, whoa, like I don't need to just save up at home and go on a trip and then spend all my money and then have to go back home to get a job and save up more money again. I can potentially work from the road. So that was really what started it all for me. And that's when I became serious about running Bicycle Touring Pro. And I've slowly transitioned from running this marketing company that I used to manage to now basically running Bicycle Touring Pro as my one and only business and full-time job. So it's been fun. And you know, I used to tell people when I was in university, when you're in university, you tend to spend a lot of time talking with your friends and family members about what you're going to do after you graduate from university. The whole goal of going to university is to get a good job, usually. And I kept telling all my friends and family at this time that I wish I could just get paid to travel and ride my bike and work for myself. And at the time, a lot of my friends and family were like, yeah, good luck with that. You know what I mean? That's like the dream. Nobody does that. But here I am a few years later doing exactly that. And yeah, it's been a good experience overall. I think the most rewarding thing for me is just simply helping other people get out on the road. And that's like why I wrote the book and why I created my video course and stuff, is because these tools and you know, these videos that I produce on YouTube and stuff, they help people plan, prepare for, and execute their own bicycle tours all around the world. I enjoy bike touring for myself, but I kind of enjoy, now that I've been doing it for so long, helping other people learn how to do it as well. I enjoy that aspect actually more than doing the bike tours for myself. So yeah, that's my history, I guess. Jasper says, did you do freelance work as a web designer? Yeah, that's basically what I was doing. I wouldn't call it web design. I would call it internet marketing. Web design is just building websites. I was more about creating the systems that would drive sales and stuff. And I've sold a couple websites, one of which was on that first trip. I started the website in Croatia and sold it by the time I got to Greece. I made a few $1,000s from that one website. And that's what kind of turned me on to like, whoa, I could do this anywhere in the world. I'm reading your guys' questions here, so if I missed you, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get to as many as I can. Powell says, have you thought about organizing bicycle tours? It's an interesting thing you asked that, because just this past weekend, I organized a short overnight bike tour here in Southern California. It was a 2-day, 1-night bike tour. There were 13 people that ended up coming out for the tour, 14 people if you count myself. And we rode from my house here in Camarillo, California, down to the beach along the Pacific coast of California, and we stayed at a campground, a nearby campground about 20 miles away. Yeah, we had a campfire. We sat around talking. We ate burritos that I had driven in. My parents brought warm burritos from Chipotle. And so we all sat around the campfire eating burritos. And then the following day, after a night of sleeping in our tents, we packed up our bicycles and cycled 20 miles back to Camarillo, and that was the end of the tour. So it was a good, short, overnight bike tour. And it was really cool because there were some experienced bicycle tourists on this trip, but there were also a lot of people on the trip who had never done a bike tour of any kind before, and a lot of people who had never camped before, or a lot of people who had never cycled in the rain before, and it was raining on the first day of the trip, unfortunately. So it was cool to, like, in a very short amount of time, introduce these people to bicycle touring. Now, obviously, like, a 2-day trip is not a huge bike trip, like cycling across America or something, but it's a great way to get started. And this 20-mile trip down to the beach and back is actually how I got started when I was 17 years old and training for my first long-distance bike tour. I would just do these short overnight tours as a way of preparing for my much longer tour that I was about to take. So your question was about me organizing guided tours or something like that in the future, and the answer is yes. I'm interested in doing that. I guess my question is, what kind of tour would you want it to be? Because there's a lot of different types of bicycle tours. Like, would you want to just camp every night? Would you want to stay in established campgrounds? Or would you want to do it the way you see me do it, kind of, where you're just kind of camping in the wild? Or would you prefer that we stay in hotels every night and eat at fancy restaurants and that sort of a thing? There's so many different ways to do it. And I guess, you know, I would need you to tell me what kind of trip you would want it to be, and also where in the world you think that the tour would be. I've thought about organizing a bike tour in Transylvania, Romania, because this is a part of the world that I've been to 3 times before. I know it very, very well, and I think it's one of the most beautiful, scenic places for bike touring that no other company is offering bike tours in. And I would love to do a Transylvania, Romania bike tour, but I don't know if anyone would go there to do this trip with me. If it sounds like something you would like to do, please get in touch with me. Maybe I'll put you on a list or something. And once I do decide to do that trip, I'll get in touch with you. But that's something that I would really like to do. A lot of people have also asked me to do a tour like I did last summer in either Norway or Sweden, because people saw how beautiful it was there. And I really like cycling in Sweden and Norway as well. So maybe I'll do a bike tour in northern Sweden at some point in the future also. So stay tuned for that. I just want to do it in a way that you guys would like it to be done. And I think it would be fun too to have some of my Bicycle Touring Pro readers come along on my trips and have them be featured in my videos here on the Bicycle Touring Pro YouTube channel. I think that would be a lot of fun. Oops. Some people saying, I'm in for Romania. Sign me up. Is wild camping allowed in Romania? Yeah, what? Romania is pretty, it's a little lawless in some ways, I guess. But yeah, wild camping is allowed. I've done a lot of camping there. It just, again, it depends where you go, right? Michelle says, where have you not visited yet that you would like to? Japan, Mongolia, Russia, New Zealand I'd like to go to, and Madagascar. Those are the places I want to go. Those are the few places at the top of my list. Hey, Jasper and Giles, that said you're interested in Romania. If you're serious, would you mind just like contacting me through the Bicycle Touring Pro contact page? Just go to Bicycle Touring Pro and click on the contact button up at the top. It's bicycletouringpro.com/contact. Send me a message through there and just let me know that you're interested in doing the tour in Romania. I'll put you on the list or something, because yeah, that's something I'm like really serious about doing. So if you're interested in Romania or Sweden, let me know. Sorry, I'm just reading your questions here. Jazz says, I just got my passport. Let's do it. LFC says, hell yeah, I want to go to Romania or Scandinavia. Hit me up, bro. Seriously, if you're interested, send me a email through the contact form on Bicycle Touring Pro. We'll make it happen. Maybe next summer or something like that. Margaret says, how many miles do you average a day? I actually have a whole article about that up on the Bicycle Touring Pro website. So just type your question in there and you'll find the answer. I also talk about that inside the Bicycle Touring Blueprint. Talk about that quite a bit, because it's important to know when you're planning a trip how many miles or kilometers you should be planning to do in a given period. So I talk about that inside the book, and there's a free article up on my website that answers that question. Rather than talk about that now, I'll just direct you to that article. Da, 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 da. Oh, I'm sorry, the questions are coming too fast. I'm trying to read them. If you come to Norway again, you must let me show you specific routes. Yeah, that'd be cool. I can't keep up with the questions. Michelle says, what about Scotland? Haven't been there. I was planning to go there in 2014. I spent a month and a half cycling around the UK, Wales, and Ireland. And I was supposed to go to Scotland afterwards, but after a month and a half in those countries, I was so wet and so cold, I just was sick of it. And I wanted to get out of there. So I ended up jumping on an airplane and going to Romania, where it was hot and sunny and wonderful, and I don't regret it for a second. The only problem is I never saw Scotland. So I'd love to come back and do another tour in Scotland. I just don't want to stay very long because it's so cold and so wet. I didn't like that. Stacy Richard says, can you take a tent / sleeping bag on a gravel bike or hybrid bike? Or is it too much weight for that type of bike? Generally, yeah, you can pack a tent and a sleeping bag on a gravel bike or a hybrid bike and not have any problems. The problems that occur with carrying a bunch of gear on your bicycle occur when you're carrying too much gear for that particular bike. Like carbon bikes, for example, are not generally designed to carry heavy loads, and you really don't want to put much weight on a carbon bicycle for the most part. There are exceptions, but because those frames and those forks tend to break very easily under excess weight. Aluminum bicycles or steel bicycles that you might find on a gravel bike or a hybrid bicycle are a little better suited for carrying extra weight. So as long as you aren't carrying too much, you'll be okay. But yeah, I've written tons of information about touring bicycles, which are bicycles that are designed specifically for bicycle touring. If you're planning to do shorter bike tours, weekend trips or something, you don't necessarily need a dedicated touring bike, but you probably want a bike that has the ability to attach a rear rack to it so that you can carry a couple panniers or tow a trailer behind it, that kind of a thing. So no, as long as you're going lightweight, you'll be okay with pretty much whatever type of bicycle you have. Reading your questions now. Phil says, anxiety is my problem, making the first step, getting out of my comfort zone. Phil, you are not alone. This is honestly like the biggest problem for so many people who are new to bike touring. One of the things that is really cool about bike touring, let me start off by saying this, is that you do not need to be super fast. You do not need to be a racer. You do not need to have extensive cycling knowledge. You do not need to know how to do tricks or know how to bunny hop. The great thing about bike touring is that pretty much anybody can do it as long as you know how to ride a bicycle. There is no, it's not a race. You're out there for yourself. The point of a bike tour generally is to enjoy it. And so I think if you're having any anxiety from that perspective, I would say don't worry about it. I think the anxiety that most people get when they think about going off on a bike tour is the unknown, the fear of going off out into places where they've never been before, and they don't know what it's going to be like, and they don't know where they're going to get their food or where they're going to get their water, and where they're going to sleep at night. And that's the part that scares them the most. And there's a million things that could happen potentially. And so that's probably, I'm guessing, the anxiety that you're feeling. If it makes you feel any better, I've been doing bike tours for 18 years, and I still have anxiety at the beginning of pretty much every single one of my bike tours. Because, yeah, even though I've done this a lot, I like you, sometimes enjoy the comforts and convenience of being in a place that I'm familiar with. And it is a little scary to go off and even if you're cycling in your own state or own country, it can be scary to go to a place you've never been before where you don't know anybody. But if you're going internationally to some foreign country, that's when it can be even more scary, because you maybe don't speak the language, you can't communicate with anyone, you don't know what the rules are exactly. And I guess, yeah, my only advice is this. One, pretty much everybody has this anxiety at the beginning of their tour, so don't feel like you're alone in that. Two, know that that anxiety will go away generally after your first few days on the road. And I talk about that a lot inside the Bicycle Touring Blueprint. I have a whole chapter about anxiety in here. And in the book, I basically say that like your first 3 days on the road are going to be the most challenging and the most stressful, because it's during these first 3 days that you're really figuring things out. You're figuring out how to pack your bike and how much time you need to find a campground at the end of the day, and where to find food and water along your routes, and how to navigate, and how to get along with your travel partners, and all those sorts of things are like slamming together during the first 3 days on the road. And that can be very, very scary. But after those first 3 days, usually you start to get in the swing of things and things become a whole lot more comfortable, and you start to believe in yourself and realize that, okay, I'm doing well with this, like I can do this, I'm figuring things out, and you get in the groove and you become comfortable, as comfortable perhaps as you would be sitting at home right now or at work or whatever. So that's my only advice. I would just know that, yeah, anxiety is a normal part of this, but I encourage you to overcome your fears and get out there, because that's really the only way that you're going to make your bike tour happen. I don't know if there's any way to totally squash that anxiety without actually getting out there and doing it. So that's it. Guys, it's already 1 p.m. or 2 p.m., so I've been on here for an hour. I'm going to answer a couple more questions, and then I got to go. I have some other things going on today, but thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope this has been a little fun for you. And maybe I answered a couple of your questions at least. I'm trying to answer some questions that are maybe not so much about me, but that are more about you, so that I can help you in the future. But I'm more than willing to share some stories and stuff from my own experiences, because I think those stories are a valuable tool for helping you in a way to know what to expect on your own bike tours. One of the things I wanted to say while I've got you here is that this weekend I did this overnight bike tour. I called it the Bikes and Burritos tour with a bunch of people here, Bicycle Touring Pro readers here in Southern California. And it was so much fun meeting you guys, because a lot of what I do as the Bicycle Touring Pro is like me sitting in this room or sitting in my tent, or riding my bike through some foreign country by myself. And oftentimes it can be very difficult for me to tell if I'm actually making an impact. So it was really cool this weekend to meet 13 of my Bicycle Touring Pro readers who knew everything about me because they watched every one of my videos and read all my articles, and it was really, really cool. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and I hope that we can do more Bicycle Touring Pro tours and meetups in the future. Gig123 says, oh, I missed it. Basically, it was a question about am I ever compensated for the bikes I ride or the gear I use or things like that. I have gotten deals on bikes and stuff in the past, but mostly all of the stuff that I use and recommend is stuff that I have actually bought myself. Like I have Ortlieb panniers and the racks I use. Like I just posted 2 reviews of tents on the Bicycle Touring Pro YouTube channel in the past couple of weeks, and people were asking, did you get those tents for free or did you buy them? I bought them, and I use them. If you look at my videos, you'll see me actually using the product. I wouldn't really make a video telling you to buy a product that I don't think is any good. Now, I have done a couple reviews in the past where people have sent me a product and said, hey, would you mind reviewing this? And I have reviewed it for them. And I didn't think it was the greatest product in the world, but I also tried to say that in the review. So I'm always trying to be honest with these things, and yeah, I think that answers your question. But yeah, I spend a lot of money on Bicycle Touring Pro, to be honest. And like with my book, like this book is the main way that I finance Bicycle Touring Pro. I sell the ebook for $29 and the printed book mailed anywhere in the world for $39. And to be honest, the profit margin off of this is very, very small. But the small amount of money that I do make from this book and from my video course is what allows me to go out and do the bike tours that I do and buy new camera gear and editing software. I just spent $500 on new software, and I just bought a $1,000 camera, and all these things total add up. Last year, I think I spent about $25,000 just running the website at bicycletouringpro.com. So there are some major expenses with what I do, and I appreciate it when you guys support me by buying the books, signing up for the video course, making a donation, whatever. That is how I continue running Bicycle Touring Pro. So that's basically it. Thank you. Lucas EQ77 says, question, will your book benefit someone who does just short 2 to 3 day bike rides? Yeah, this book is designed to help you do a bike tour of any length anywhere in the world. So whether you're doing a short weekend style bike trip like the one I did this past weekend here in Southern California, a week-long tour, or a month or year-long tour, this book will teach you all of the tips and strategies and tools that you need to make your bike tour a success. Michelle says, any chance of a full autobiography? I don't think so. I don't know if anyone would want to buy that. I do have some stories from the road that I've kind of been saving, and maybe I'll put together a book just of short stories at some point in the future. But the truth is, writing books, especially in this small niche, is not very profitable. Like I said, I sell this book, but I don't make very much of anything from it. And yeah, so sitting down and writing a book for a year, I don't know if I want to do that again. I've already written 4 books. It's going to be a while before I write another one. Richie says, I've bought the books and always recommend your website. Thank you, Richie. I would kiss you on the forehead right now if I could. Thank you so much. Richie says, get a ghostwriter and self-publish. That's a good idea. I just have to pay the ghostwriter. Anyways, I think that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I got to go right now. It's I got a busy day ahead of me. But hopefully this has been fun. Just some quick reminders before you go. There are a bunch of upcoming events coming to. There are a bunch of upcoming events that you can join, where you can meet me and ride with me in the future. So go to bicycletouringpro.com/calendar. Check out all the events. And if you live in any of these areas, be sure to come out. It would be great to meet you, take a picture with you, maybe even ride bikes with you on some of these trips. Soulway says, any plans to do a tour in Australia? Not any immediate plans. I've never been to Australia, and I don't have plans to go there anytime soon, but I would like to get there at some point. I just don't know when. Richie says, thanks, Darren. Best of health and happiness to you. Michelle says, great webinar. Take care. Thanks, Michelle. Rob says, I look forward to your next tour. Yeah, I didn't even mention that. I am leaving next week. I'm going up to Eureka, California to participate in a solo, just like a week-long bike tour through the redwoods. The redwoods are these giant red trees that only grow in a small strip of land in Northern California. and they are the tallest trees in the world, if I'm not mistaken. They're the tallest trees in the world, and they only grow on the coast of Northern California, basically. So I'm going there to do a bike trip next week at the end of March. Then in April, I'm doing like a 2-week-long bike packing trip in the mountains around Klamath Falls and Bend, Oregon. Then I'm going to Eureka, Oregon for the meetup with CoMotion Cycles. Then I'm flying to Europe. I'm doing the week-long bike tour in Portugal with Fold and Visit, the Way of St. James bike tour, which is a guided tour. There's already a bunch of Bicycle Touring Pro readers who have joined that trip. Then I'm going to Poland, doing my meetup there in Poznan, Poland. Then I'm traveling to Prague in the Czech Republic and doing a month-long bike tour with my friend Kevin, who many of you might remember from my previous bike tours. I've done 3 bike tours with Kevin in the past. Kevin's a 70-year-old Australian man that I met in 2012 on a bike tour in Switzerland. So we did a bike tour in Switzerland together. Then we went to Taiwan, did a bike tour around Taiwan together. 2 years ago, we spent a month and a half cycling across Portugal, Spain, and France together. And now this year, we're going to spend another month cycling across Slovakia and the Czech Republic. And then after that bike tour with Kevin, I see people saying, Kevin is so cool. Kevin's back. Yeah. Kevin is a legend with a bike to match. Yeah. So also in my videos with Kevin, I'm gonna have a new segment just with Kevin in my upcoming videos. So I think you're gonna enjoy that. I'm thinking of calling it Kevin's Coffee Break, where we talk to Kevin about his life and how the bike tour is going, something like that. But anyways, after the bike tour with Kevin in Slovakia and the Czech Republic, I am then going to be on my own cycling across eastern Poland. I'm going to be cycling the Green Velo route, which is a 2,000-kilometer marked cycling path across Poland. It's the longest marked cycling path in the entire country, and it's relatively new. And so I wanted to share it with you guys. I've been to Poland. I've probably spent more time in Poland than I've ever spent in any other country, maybe anywhere in the world. Maybe I've spent more time in Peru. But I've spent a lot of time in Poland, and I really like it there. The people are just so nice. I probably have more friends in Poland than I do in the United States of America, which is where I'm from. So I'm going back to Poland and doing that 2,000-kilometer bike tour across that country. And then I will be flying back to the United States, and I plan to be doing some bike tours in Colorado, Montana, perhaps. Not exactly sure where just yet, but I'll be back in the United States in the autumn. So those are my plans as the Bicycle Touring Pro for the next several months. And I can't wait to share everything with you. I got a bunch of new videos coming out soon on the Bicycle Touring Pro YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm reading the last of your comments. Christian says, where will you be in July? In July, I'll be doing the Green Velo route in Poland. That's where I think I'll be. So Kim says, I live near Kevin in South Australia. Does he do meet and greets? No, I don't think he does. He's not into the web stuff as much as I am, but I could suggest it to him. I know that he does go out and ride with a lot of the local groups, so maybe you can connect with him there. I'll talk to him about that. Anyways, guys, I gotta go. I see some more questions coming in, but I'm sorry, I really have to go. I will be doing more live webinars like this in the future. However, I am going to be hitting the road soon, so I don't know when the next one's going to be. Maybe I'll do one from the road if possible. But thank you so much. Nacho says, are you looking for ride buddies for your tours? At this point in time, I'm not, because I basically have my whole year planned. But there are tours that I've posted on the Bicycle Touring Pro website that you are invited to join. So check those out. And if you're interested in coming on any of those trips, I would love to meet you. Okay, guys, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Darren Alf from BicycleTouringPro.com. Once again, if if you want to pick up a copy of my book and learn how to conduct your own bike tours, I'm doing a special deal right now. Just go to biketourbook.com, order the paperback or ebook version of the Bicycle Touring Blueprint, and enter the coupon code YouTube Live at checkout, and you'll save $5 off the cost of the book. Plus, I will send you a signed copy of the book if you order the paperback. And like I said previously, like when you buy this book, the money goes towards helping me run BicycleTouringPro.com. I spend thousands and thousands of dollars every year running the website and doing webinars like this and traveling and all that kind of thing. So the small profit from these books goes to help continue Bicycle Touring Pro in the future. So if you want to support me while also supporting yourself by learning to bike tour, pick up a copy today. Just enter YouTube Live at checkout to save yourself $5 and get a signed copy. Okay, guys, that's it. I'm Darren Alf from BicycleTouringPro.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you out on the road sometime soon. Oh, gosh, I said it one more time. All right, see you guys. Have a good day. Bye.